Hey, everyone. Welcome to the channel. I've got TSG, and we're talking everything Overworld. Now, Overworld's been out for what, about a month now? It's given everyone a good amount of time to become good and addicted and obsessed. I guess my first question for you, TSG. Now, you got to play this before a lot of us because, you're a member of the team.
Yes.
With its release, I feel like people hype each other up. Did you play
Mm.
more or did you play less?
More, definitely more. Definitely more. Because I was actually streaming. When we had access internally, honestly, I didn't play that much. I only played like when they asked us to beta test. When they're like, "All right, yo guys, we're about to release it in the last week. Make sure you test it out. Make sure you beta test, give us some feedback." That's the only time that I played for fun internally. But and even then, like they kind of changed it and upgraded it from when we played it. So I knew that the public build that everyone was going to get was going to be slightly different from what we had. But no, I definitely played more after. But even then, I didn't. Truthfully, I didn't play as much as a lot of people are playing. Like it's crazy.
I,
I still
I
had shit to do. So like as much as I wanted to play it and go crazy with it, it sucks knowing that it is going to be wiped. Like it just is. Like I know some people, yeah, like I can see your face. I know a lot of people are like, oh man, they still. I know Zazu has been
It
trying to
doesn't
capture
bother me as
everything.
much.
Yeah. I mean, it's dope.
Like,
It's dope. Like
I
I
would say,
personally wanted to capture like the fans and stuff. Like I still wanted to
yeah,
get that. But it's kind of one of those things. It's like, would you get excited over a slice of pizza if you know a full pizza's coming? And that's the way I was looking at it. I was like, oh man, like if we were told that this was the game, this would be amazing. Like this would be cool. I'd get stuck into it 100%. But now knowing that it is coming, like that we are going to be able to own it and all of that is coming, it's like, oh man, I'm not going to commit that much time into this one. Um, and again, like I get it. Like I still did stream for like 5 or 6 hours, and I'm sure I'll still do things like that. But yeah, it's definitely not as I'm not as diehard as a lot of the other other people
I,
where they're
I, I
like they've
feel a little
knocked their like
silly. I think I'm 85% completed on my Illuvidex, and that's
that's
including
like
tier zeros. And
mental.
it's on my I have like an internal mental goal, and this shows you I'm
Yeah.
an avid like collector kind of person in the sense that like my goal before they wipe is to not only have one of every alluvial, but one of
Mm.
every item, augment,
That's the yeah.
and upgrade. Like I don't know what it is about me. I will not collect physical items because I think it's clutter. But you give
Mhm.
me a game where I have to collect things, I'm just like, I need this and I need this.
Yeah.
And it'll be cool once like it's for real and it's for stakes and it's gonna be worth something. But I don't know. Maybe it's because I haven't been in Web3 and doing play to earn and play and earn style games a lot. But like this to me is like, oh, this is the game. I think this is a
Yeah.
cool game.
100%. It definitely is. And I do get when I went into this, I was just like, oh man, I want to collect all the links. And then I just realized how much time that shit was gonna take. And I was like, nah, I can't do that. But no, it's what you're saying is 100%. What you're saying is 100% true. Like a lot of people are really into the game for the game and what it is, and it's all like it's flaws, it's like successes, because it's not a perfect game by any means,
Mhm.
but it shows that like the psychology of the game is kind of like present. You can definitely see it. You can see why people are going to get into it and addicted. And I've said it multiple times already, but even the idea that the concept of starting with, and I don't know if you're going to start with 3 shards or what that actually is going to be like, but let's say it is the concept of starting with 3 shards in your mind. You're like, all right, I got 5,000 energy. You go into it. The first thing any logical human being is going to do is spend those 3 shards. It just is. Once you do that, you'll still have, let's say, about 3,000 energy left, right? Once you're done with that, what are you going to do with your run? Are you just going to stop? Probably not. But you've just used your shards, so what are you going to do? You're going to start to be like, ah, man, I've just used my shards. If I want to capture more, I need to get more. So what are most logical people going to do? Spend the rest of their 3,000 energy getting shards in a tier 0. And then they're going to end up having like 10 shards. Then the next run, they're going to come in and it's just going to cycle. Like you can
Mhm.
physically see how they're leading you through that like line of addiction. And it's dope. Um,
It's gonna be so different
yeah.
though, because you have the people who are gonna wanna play it just themselves and go through that
Mm.
cycle as you're explaining, But then I've already seen people in the Discord start breaking out and saying, okay, here, I will go get the Illuvials. You get me the shards. So one person's going to be farming and
Crazy.
sending the other person shards because, hey, maybe they're not great at
That's
auto
dope.
battlers or they're not great at traversing with the jumping and the jetpack. So it will be really interesting to kind of see that happen, whether it's
That's cool.
struck
So they're gonna work
trading
in
or
like
selling.
partnerships and shit. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's
I
super sick.
personally have already been talking to a couple people. Sky and I have been discussing like, do we trade off so we can go as fast as possible? Like, okay, today you get to mine and I get to catch Illuvials and tomorrow we'll switch.
Yeah.
But
Damn, that's cool. I think that's a great idea. If you can actually like find something, that's the thing that's cool. Like the more time I spend in the community, and the more like time passes. I
mhm,
was never a big World of Warcraft player. Like I just never played it like that. The more I spend time here, the more I realize like, oh, we're really kind of building out a universe like that, where you're gonna have someone that does a certain thing and have a certain role, and then you're gonna have someone else that does. It's not just like here you go, here's a game and play it. People are
yeah.
very much trying to strategize and optimize and be like, oh man, I'm gonna do this, you do this, we work together and optimize that. It's like, yo, people are diehard. It's pretty mental. It's quite fun to see, especially again like in like I know I talk to Josh Earth, Zazu, and all those guys in voice chat every day, and these guys are still bashing this game. Like they're still bashing this game. Like hours on hours, making sure they get their tier 3, tier 2, tier 1 run or stage
Mhm.
1 run every day. And I'm like, Jesus, like, and I just see them, they're just casually doing the Jimbo jump like it's nothing as well. Like it's
I haven't mastered
wildness.
that yet.
It's wildness. It's wildness. Yeah. But no, it's been cool. It's been cool. I think the reception has been really good. And I know internally we're all very, very happy with the reception and very proud. Like I said, there's obviously a lot of like UI flaws and things that
Mhm.
need to be improved. But overall, like we've seen it on social media. That's another thing that I'm personally very happy with, especially because of my job. But like seeing the presence of Illuvium clips and images and things on Twitter, that's been really really cool. Like seeing a lot of other influencers kind of talk about Illuvium and showcase themselves playing it, like shit like that is really really cool. So it's been yeah. I think overall it's been very. We're very very happy. We're very happy with where we're at.
And I mean, obviously it's the beta, so things are going to get fixed, upgraded. There are still even features that haven't been included yet. One thing that I know has been talked about that I'm kind of excited to see how they implement is like plants fighting back or
Mm.
some sort of avoidance you have to do there. I feel like the collective pain point in the community is the UI of the forge and the locker. But
Yeah.
now we all know that's the pain point. Beyond that, though, is there anything in the game that just kind of like irks you?
Irks me? Not necessarily. Let me think. Me personally, not really. The biggest thing is the UI. Like it just is. It feels like it's just unintuitive. Like certain things, and I'm just like, small things. It would just make it so much easier. The fact that so many of the names are pretty similar, that's fine. But then at least like have a little counter on it to say how many we have
Mhm.
in in our locker or something like that. Like if we're trying to get a drone upgrade, have like a little one, so we know that we're not going to waste our resources upgrading something that we already actually have. Just things
Mhm.
like that, right? Or if we can sort about what we have, what we don't have already, things like that. Just small things like that. Yeah, like it's just very minor things like that, which I think is just going to make things super different. Even like this is an obvious one, but and I'm honestly can't believe we didn't do this to begin with, but the locker storage and your deck.
Mhm.
Like the fact that you have to switch through screens is just insane to me. Like it's just insane.
Mhm.
Like when we have a perfectly good example of Pokemon and how they do it, of them having the deck on one side and then the Pokebox on the other side, so you can visually see them side by side and just move things across. Like that seems like it's such a no brainer that it kind of baffled me that it wasn't in there. But again, honestly, like overall, the game is good. Um, the thing that irks me is just these UI things. I'm like, oh man, it's just kind of annoying, but it will get done. Again, it'd be impossible to make a perfect game. Again, we've only been building
Mhm.
this for like 2 years, man. Like to make a perfect game, first try on the first beta, Jesus, like, I mean, we're good, not that good.
Yeah, I will say for me, I have to ask, how many times have you entered the overworld and either not had shards with the
Oh,
intent
that's
to catch alluvials or
never
not had
happened.
a team?
That's never happened. That's never happened. I
Really?
always know. Like, it's happened the one time when I first got the shards, and I didn't realize I had to take them back out. It happened that first time, and then ever since then, I was like, I kind of know, like, if I'm going for a capture run, I need to put. Why would you never have a deck? That makes no sense.
Well, okay,
You
so
should
here,
always have a deck.
let me understand what happens to me because this actually happens to me all the time. Like, I'll
That's
go in with
wild.
the intent to catch alluvials and I'll get into my first battle and I'm like, where am I?
But why would you
They're there.
take out your Illuvials? Like,
So I
I mean,
like,
the shards I get, but
when they're in your deck, they don't show up in your locker. And I like having a
mm,
visual of everything that I have so that when I'm going in, I know that I need like, oh, I need 2 more fiery and I can get a Scoriox or 1 more of this. And that's
right.
my other pain point. I wish we could sort it by, I mean, lots of little pain points I know are going to be fixed, but it's like I wish we could
Mm,
sort it by line. So you
yeah,
have like your fiery line and, your seer line all lined up. So I'll take everything out of my deck so I can see what I have and get distracted and then just head over and jump in. And I kind of almost wish
that's
there was like
hilarious.
a review your inventory before you went in or something.
Yeah.
Because right now, like, it doesn't matter. You're not spending any money, but
Mm.
it's like, if you're spending money to go on a run
That'd be
and you go
hilarious.
in and you're just like, and what's worse, right? Is you're like, you go in, to catch alluvials. Oh, well, guess I'm doing a mining run. I just wasted 500 points getting into this encounter, minimum,
And you
probably.
fuck up your drones. That's
And
happened
yeah,
to me.
and
That's
I
happened to me. Yeah.
I get why it's not a feature, but I wish you could switch your drone upgrades while you were on a run.
Mm,
Or kind of a same thing, like check your inventory, check your drone upgrades. Do you have the right things attached? Because oftentimes I have it in my inventory, but maybe I
mm.
have my 35% capture rate attached and not the other one, and I can't
Yeah.
switch.
I think
So
it's I haven't played this game in a long time, but I think Monster Hunter does something like that really well where, like, before you go out into your expedition, it'll kind of show you your build and be like, all right, this
mhm.
is what you've got attached. Like, are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you sure you're ready? Like, some shit like that. So I think something like that would be cool. Like, before we click, like, all right, we want to go into whatever stage, it doesn't matter. A thing pops up showing our deck, our attachments, being like, are you sure you're ready? You can, like,
Mhm.
humping. If you are, go ahead. If you're not, make some changes quick, smart, and then go. I think something like that would be a nice quality of life change there as well. 100%. Agreed.
So
Agreed.
so out of what was released, like, what do you think the team just, like, totally nailed? What's your favorite aspect?
The game.
Just the
They built
game,
a game.
all of it.
No, I think okay, this might be a little bit of a cop out answer. I'm realizing it as I'm thinking about it, but the auto battler side of things, like the what's it called? Dimensional stability,
Oh,
the
yeah.
animations for capture. And I know they're going to rework the animations for capture, like they're going to zoom in a little bit more and make it a little bit more of
Mm.
a theatrical thing as well. But I think for what it is now, like, it would be easy for me to say, "Oh, the overworld, like, it just looks nice." That's a given. It was always going to look nice, right? With Grant at the head of that department. If it didn't look nice, that's a fucking problem. But no, like, I think the auto battler thing, and I think the reason I say that is we've had so much experience with the auto battler, but this is the first time that we've seen it, like, in action, really, where we're all having a different experience with it. Where in survival, it was the same enemies, it's the same deck that we're using against. Most people were playing the same strategies. It's the same shit. We just kept on
Mhm.
seeing the same shit. Whereas in this order battle, it's cool because we actually finally got to see some people use a bit more of their creativity and what they had, right? Some
Mhm.
people went the Doka line. You see fucking Chris and Monolama go crazy with the Lynxes. Um, you see other people go with Ripe Lances and things like that. So I think it was cool to see that and actually see how that works with the dimensional stability. And again, in voice chat, in the streams, we see people kind of like panicking. Like, I forget who it was. I think it was I want to say Viper. I want to say Viper. It was like
Mm,
Viper 2 days ago. He saw in a battle, he saw a Ramfy and a Ram fight and a
really?
dash. Like it was a crazy, yeah, it was a crazy battle in one battle. And he spent like, I swear to God, I think he spent like 30 minutes, like with me, Josh, at the back, being like, "Yo, no, you don't need to place anything else, Josh. Nah, you need to place this fucking Doka. You need to make sure you beat it." And we're going back and forth, trying to optimize the dimensional stability to like optimize capturing chances. So shit like that. I think that was really really fun. I think it was a really really good idea, and I think it was Ben, right? I think Ben came up with that. Ben's brainchild.
Mhm.
The addition of dimensional stability, genius. Like it
Yeah.
adds another layer to it, and I think it's just so well done in regards to like it makes it harder for like the good players, and it rewards them at the same time. It's good instead of just like the problem with Pokemon is it's very much a sit back, close your eyes, a. Like that's all you have to do. Like
Yeah, true.
physically, you could run through the entire game and just put a. Oh, change Pokemon, a. Like that's physically all you do. Whereas with this, it's not that like that at all. You can't just click play, and if you do, you get penalized for it by not getting as many captures opportunities to catch. So yeah, for me, the thing that stood out was the battling. And again, I know it's a bit of a cop out answer because we're talking about the overworld, but sue me.
No, it's fine. Honestly, for me, one of the things that it's funny 'cause, when I saw the leaks of this, I was mildly disappointed, and now that I've played the game, I think they nailed
Mm,
the capture sequence
yeah.
with Mozart doing its little thing. Like, I saw the leaks of that, and I was just like, "This just doesn't hit home for me like the way the Pokeball did." And then
Mm.
I got to thinking, it's probably just the nostalgia, like, when I first played Pokemon, the little "do, do, do," like
Pokemon killed it. Pokemon killed that. Like for the little
I mean,
wobble, like they killed that.
well, for sure, and I can appreciate that as an adult, but as a kid, I don't think it really hit me. Whereas the
Mm,
more I play the overworld, the more I kinda get drawn into that same kind of feeling of, "Is it there? Is it there?" I'm, like,
mm.
listening for sound cues, like, "It made that sound. I think I'm gonna lose it." And then be wrong, right? So, yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
that the one thing I was really worried about I also felt there might have been a disconnect with the capture because in Pokemon, like, you're playing as that character, you're throwing you imagine yourself throwing the Pokeball, and even now, it's a big thing. People buy Pokeballs and just
Mm,
I do it with my kids, we play
yeah.
Pokemon, they throw it at their stuffed Pokemon. But with Mozart, it's like it's kind of you've got a physical disconnect, and so I was like, "Well, how
Mm.
attached will I actually feel to this?" But
Yeah, yeah.
I was proven wrong. It's great. I love it. I think they did a
It's
fab job.
and that's one of those things I want to say as well. Of like, yeah. So like, this is one of the things that I wanted to say as well. Like, I feel like a lot of the community and bless everyone. Like, I get it. Everyone just wants to be helpful and they want to be a part of the process. I get it. Like, I get it. But a lot of people just give like feedback with only bits and pieces of the picture. It's
Mhm.
like when you were saying that, oh, it doesn't seem like it's going to hit that well, like the capture sequence. The thing is, that's all you saw, just what was leaked. And I get it. We can't blame you guys for that because that's all you see. But the thing is, like the people internal are testing it out in the entire process. They're doing like the
Mhm.
actual the battle, the capture. They're trying to figure all of this shit out. And this goes like the same with so many things as well. Like so many times we get feedback. Oh, what about this? What about this? Like, yo, guys, like I don't know, like I don't know. It does. I don't know. It does get tiring. It does get tiring, and it sucks because it's like, yo, these guys are working at it. Like they know this shit. Like they know, and
Mhm.
when us we don't want feedback. We do, but like at the same time, take it easy. Like chill out. Like we don't need to be like aggressive or. And I'm not saying you're aggressive, but like we do get some of those people that are like with aggressive feedback. It's
Mhm.
like, yo, just chill out. Like we know we know what we're doing. We've spent a lot more time on this than you have. You've seen a little clip of something and you think you know everything. Like relax. In like again, I go back to it and it's what we've had: private beta 1, private beta 2, overworld, land sale, trailer, like every single product that we've dropped. Tell me it's not at the highest quality. It
I can't
is.
deny that.
It is. It's like no matter what people say, like they're like, oh, this or that, like chitter chatter, chitter chatter. Like there's so much noise, but we end up pulling it off every single time. It's like trust, like bear with us. We're gonna get things. We're gonna get things done, and we're gonna get like better at it as well. Like we're not just gonna be out. Think about it. If we're 5 for 5 right now, we're not gonna sit back and be like, "Oh man, fuck the next one." Like that's just not gonna happen. We're gonna want to do one up, right? So I just beg that like people are a little bit more patient and understanding with the team. Like these guys work crazy hard, man. Like it's not a joke.
And it's interesting. So, I mean, in my mind, the overworld is a little bit of the linchpin for the whole ecosystem, just because if people want to come in and catch their own Illuvials versus just buying a team off the Illuvidex, like that's where everyone's going to start. So that first
Mm,
impression, which again, with the beta, I think they did a really great job. And just knowing that there's going to be more excites me more.
mm,
So like, I mean, one of the big, uh, not really complaints, but I would say comments uh, that the community has kind of thrown around is like, oh, it's after you've done it, like maybe for 2 weeks, it gets kind of boring, or Crimson Waste feels kind of empty, which that
mm.
comment I find kind of funny because Crimson Waste feels empty.
I think it's dope. I think Grim Race is dope.
Um,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's to me, it's like, well, it's meant to be that it's a desert.
yeah.
Whereas,
Crimson Waste feels empty. Yeah, you sure? Is it meant to be
whereas
like
like,
teeming with life? Like what's going on? Did
yeah,
we get the wrong
whereas like
memo? What's
Halcyon
happening?
Sea is going to have a totally different feel. Like not just
Yeah,
visually, but with the sounds and the interactions, and it makes me more excited to want to see the other regions.
yeah.
And not, I
No, it
mean,
is
not
funny.
to
It is
mention.
funny when people say that. It's just like, yo, do you guys not understand the biome that you're in? Like, do you not get it? Yeah,
Oh, and here's a question. I don't know if you know the answer to this. One of the things I'm also excited for is Illuvium leveling because
yeah.
if anyone's forgotten, we need to level them up before we can choose
That
them. Right
was,
now,
yeah,
that whole process is kind of like the A button, right? It's like because we can catch them, we go to the forge and we're like fuse, 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 fuse,
yeah,
fuse.
yeah,
But when it's actually released, alluvials have to be at a certain level. And then there's that complexity because they're all going to have different stats. And you don't
yeah.
necessarily want to fuse 3 crappy stats to get, a next stage crappy stat.
That's when
I
it's
just,
actually going to be really fun. I think like the overworld, I think is going to jump in levels.
mhm.
Mind the pun, but like it's going to jump in levels when leveling does come into it. I just think that that's going to add so much more like reason to come back and play. Um, it just makes sense. It makes sense to because right now it's like once you've captured everything, like why would you want to battle again? Like there's no reason to battle. Whereas if you capture something, and you'd want to go in just to battle and level it up and things
Mhm.
like that. So I think
So
the leveling system is going to be massive.
is the leveling happening in the overworld, in the arena, both only one place?
What do you mean? Like
Well, so you
if
you battle
like
your
in
alluvials to level them up.
PvP?
Yeah, I mean, is
Yeah.
so when we're battling, does
I,
battling them in the arena
hmm.
count or only in the overworld?
Don't
Do you
don't
know?
quote me. As far as I'm aware, it's only overworld.
Oh,
Only
only?
overworld.
Okay.
I don't believe PvP is like boost your levels or experience. I think it's only going to be an overworld grind that does that. Don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
also interested to see if I mean, I almost assume you'll get more XP if you're battling stronger alluvials. So
I
there'll
would
probably
assume
be
so.
people who just want to like level up in tier 0 so you're not spending money to have to level your alluvials. But I mean, if you earn 50 XP in tier 0 but maybe 500 XP in tier 3, like seeing
It
what
would make
people are willing to
sense.
pay for to do that, how much grinding they're
Hmm.
willing to do will be really interesting.
Yeah. No, I think it's gonna be interesting. That's why I say like once that happens, it's gonna change the game completely. I think it's gonna open it up completely to what
Once it
people can do.
once it does release, do you think more people are likely to buy their characters off the Illuvidex or go catch them themselves?
Yes. Yeah. I 100% think that people are going to buy things off the Illuvidex. This is something that me and Josh have been talking about a lot actually recently. I don't know if you've seen his idea in the ideas chat about a mobile companion or like
Oh,
from
yeah.
Illuvium. Yeah, from Illuvium. I think this is a fucking genius idea because and I'll lay out why. Because most gamers, like we know how big mobile gaming is. We know most players in the world have access to a mobile, but don't have access to a
Mhm.
high end PC or even a mid tier PC. which would mean that we know for a fact that we're going to get Illuvium Zero on mobile.
Mhm.
But if a user doesn't have access to a PC to capture these Illuvials, how are they going to get their deck? The only option they have is to buy it on the marketplace, which kind of sucks. Because then it automatically feels like it's a pay to kind of play. Like
Mhm.
it's a weird situation to be in. But if we had like that companion thing from Illuvium Zero where you could go out and send these guys out, we know that it takes us about an efficient run takes us about 30 minutes. Like
Yeah.
especially with the Jimbo jump, it's about 30 minutes zooming past everything. For the average person, it takes about an hour. So let's kind of reward them by making it efficient on the mobile and say you can just do it on the mobile, send your person out, but it takes 2.5 hours to gather your shit, and you get it at a lower rate of return than you if you were to actually play it going out. But what this does now is it allows mobile users to actually go out and get these alluvials at a lower rate, not knowing what they're gonna get and just kind of like chancing it, like it is just gotcha, like
The
that's all it
blind
is.
opening.
Yeah, it's a blind opening. You don't know what you're gonna. You not even guaranteed to get anything. Like you might get one. It just depends.
Mhm.
Uh, but at least this way, your entire experience is from mobile. You get your deck, and then you go and play it in the arena, all in that one swoop. So I think that was a genius idea. And I know like there's been a lot of back and forth on ideas and how to deal with that. But I think at some point, I think it would make sense because the majority of gamers are going to be mobile gamers. We saw that with Axie, and I mean, we see that with Teamfight Tactics. I always bring up this number, but 8 to 10 million daily players. That's not all on
Crazy.
PC. Yeah, that's not all on PC. So if we want those kind of numbers, we're going to need to incentivize people and have an entire loop on mobile, and I think that's going to be super important. Yeah, I think that was a great idea by Josh.
I know we always talk about the overworld being essentially like a pack opening, but that to me is more like a pack opening in the sense of like what you're getting is preset. And then you're just blind opening. You're like, ooh, what I get? And I mean, that right there is kind of a streamable event. Whereas in the overworld, you can kind of pick and choose. Like, I go into this encounter and I'm at the
Mm,
point now on a run where I'm like, okay, I'm definitely getting the Rampy. I don't need any more Laluras. Oh God, don't show me another Tatapy. Those are like the Zubats of Illuvium for
Zubats,
me right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Um, but anyways, yeah. So I really like that idea because to me it hits a bit more home with opening a pack of cards.
Mm. And
So
I, like to me it makes perfect sense as well. It's like
yeah.
if you want the more the better the
Mhm.
yeah the more vivid. I don't yeah fuck the word, it's fine. The better experience, the better experience in the overworld you played on PC, right? You get the immersive. That's the word. If
Yeah.
you want the more immersive feel, you go out there and you do that shit for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, and you get it done. But if you're again with the thing with this mobile idea, which I thought was genius, was again this is me coming out from like thinking like someone from the streets of being like a drug dealer or a drug addict.
Mhm.
It's like if someone is right now, if how is someone meant to be like if they're addicted to this product, what are they meant to do on their commute to work on a
Mhm.
bus or some shit? Play Illuvium Zero. That's a clicker thing. Like you just clicking it and it's fine, whatever. But and then what? Like, so they've got time in their day that they're
Mhm.
addicted to this universe that they're not in this universe, which sucks. Or even at work. Like, imagine this at work. People work. Like, people have 8-hour jobs. Like, this is what people do. But they can't play. But what can they do is they can, let's say it takes 2 hours to do that auto run that we're talking about.
Mhm.
In that 8 hour day of work, they could do 4 of those runs, capture a whole bunch of alluvials. So when it's time for them to go home, they go home, maybe have a shower, maybe don't, but jump straight into the arena with their new alluvials that they've got. So and they've
Well,
just spent money throughout the
mhm.
day to capture and build out this deck, being in this universe. And again, like that little dopamine hit, like throughout the day of like, oh man, I just got some new shit. Like it just makes so you're just giving these people a chance to be addicted. You're just giving them the product as much as possible for them to be addicted. And it just makes perfect sense rather than having gaps in the day where they can't have access to your product. Like ask any like drug addict, like it's the worst feeling in the world where they know they've got the product at home, but they're at work and they're like, shit, like, man, I just can't wait to get home. Like, that's physically what they're saying. But if you're kind of like stashing it in their bag and filling up their bag while they're at work, what are they going to do on their smoke breaks? What are they going to do on their lunch breaks? That's exactly what we want to try and do. And it sounds horrible that I'm using drug addicts as a analogy, but I mean it's a good
Well, and I mean,
not the plan.
eventually, isn't the plan eventually for Arena to be on the phone? So for the
Yeah,
people who don't have a computer, you don't need it to be able to do all the aspects of the game.
and that's exactly what I
Ideally.
mean. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. It's like if you just have a mobile, again, like we see it in Southeast Asia and in countries like
Mhm.
that where mobile gaming is so prevalent. Like most people, like I'll speak from for where I am in China. Most people don't have a PC. Like their homes aren't big enough to own like a proper setup and things like that. It's just not what happens. But if you ask, like all of them have phones, and all of them game on phones. Like grandmas, grandpas, like they all game on mobile. So it makes sense. The more kind of opportunities you, and again, like the great thing is if you're doing that, you're gonna have to be paying for fuel, which
Mhm.
means that like we're still going to generate revenue. So it's the whole like the butting. It's like, all right, what are they gonna butt? They're gonna buy 100 phones and then pay for that. Like, cool, no problem. Like, yeah, I guess like you get a lot of them, but appreciate the revenue. Like, you still had to pay for that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like we're capping it at two. Like, I'm just based on my idea. We're capping it at 2 hours. Maybe we
Yeah.
cap it at how many of them you can do per day. I don't know. There are things that you can do to adjust it. I personally don't think so. I think you should just let it free roam. And just like again, if these guys want to butt this shit 24 hours a day, give me that revenue. Like I think that's gonna be fine. And again, they're gonna have a lower rate of return. I'm not saying this is the perfect answer. I'm sure there are things that we need to consider, but I think the idea, going back to the foundational thing that we were talking about, I think the idea of a mobile overworld companion thing that goes straight out of Illuvium Zero makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. And massive shout out to Joshua for that idea.
Well, I mean, even with bots, Illuvium's built in so many different ways to burn Illuvials that I don't think I'm not worried about there being like an overabundance of Atlas or some other type, but I am mildly concerned about there not being enough of something eventually.
Mm,
Like I get really excited when they talk about like, oh, if you run into a situation where water alluvials are really bad in this game, but they're essential in another game, like that's just such a cool concept.
mm,
I would say one of the only things that mildly worries me with the alluvials over time is the new sets. So like
mm.
right now this first set is pretty huge because we're combining the tier zeros which make up a large portion of them. And then you've got the
Yeah.
lynxes, which is essentially kind of like the Eevee of
Yeah.
alluvium in its way, which we probably won't have something like that. I mean, we could have something like that again. And I know
Mm.
that they plan to reduce the alluvial, like the number of alluvials in future sets,
Yeah.
but like if they're planning to do one every year, even if it's like 50 to 75 rather than the 200 we have right now.
Some shit.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie, I still concern myself a little bit with like Pokemon kind of, ran out of ideas in its own way. And I almost don't see it happening just because you got Grant there going, no, this is dog shit. We can't do this.
Yeah.
But with the overworld being the linchpin and new alluvials kind of helping to keep that interest, because in overworld, I can see the interest of that game going up and down, right?
Yeah.
As people catch more of the sets, they're like, oh, hey, I've completed my Luvidex. I'm going to wait for the next set to come out. And then it comes out and everyone's going at it hardcore
Yeah.
right away. I mean, what do you think? Do you think quality is going to suffer over time? Like, I
No.
feel like they've set it
There's so
up in
many
such a
ideas,
way,
man. I think
but
there's so many ideas, man.
weaving it successfully into the lore. We haven't even seen anything with the lore yet. You
Yeah,
have,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
But yeah, I have. And I might actually spend today reading up on it. Honestly, we'll see. But
Well, send it my way if you feel thus inclined.
yeah, for some proofreading. uh, no, like I think it's fine, man. Like there's so many ideas. There's like aquatics. There's like certain regions. There's different, like, there's just so many ideas, like living. There's honestly, like, you can just look at like movies. Like, I was watching this really bad TV show recently. I don't know if you have watched. I don't know if you've watched Vampire Diaries or any of those. Vampire Diaries was
Yeah.
Vampire Diaries was an amazing show.
I
That
like
that
it.
was a great that was a great show. But they came out with this new one called like they had
Legacy,
originals. Yeah,
the
Legacies.
originals.
Legacies
Yeah, the
trash,
spinoffs.
man. Yeah, Legacies was horrible. But that's the show that I was watching, and every episode they had like a mystical like creature. And I'm
Hmm.
like, man, like, fan, if we want ideas, just watch that shit. Like, just watch that shit. Every episode, there's a new thing. We can come up with ideas like
Hmm.
gargoyles and fucking phoenixes and you know what I mean. Like every episode, dragons. Like you can
I shouldn't.
physically watch that. And
Yeah.
again, if you like, depending on the theme that we have, right? If it's aquatic, you can do that. If it's four legged, if it's more than that, I know that the developers would hate that because developing more than four legs is a fucking nightmare. But
We need a
you get my
centipede alluvial.
yeah, you get my idea. Yeah, fuck it. Like make it a bicep, like whatever. Just make it thousands of legs, whatever it is. Um, but yeah, like there are definitely things, and then you can go like African. Like if you say African, then you can start thinking of like there's so many African like animals. Think about Asian. Like think about like Arctic, right? Like you can
Hmm.
kind of just, it's not that fucking hard. Like you just
I
kind of
guess as
come up with
long as
these themes.
yeah, as long as they don't like kind of the same thing. Like Pokemon did one where they had like giraffes and its name was
Mm,
like Jerf or something. I don't
yeah, yeah, yeah.
fully
Or they
remember it,
have
but
they have giraffe rig and shit like that. Yeah.
giraffe rig, yeah. So just like to me, it's like okay, you have a giraffe and you have a name that essentially is very similar to giraffe. Whereas
No, no,
like
no, we
okay,
just wouldn't do like we
take
wouldn't do shit like that. That's fucking stupid. That's just lazy.
take
At that point,
inspiration
yeah,
for sure, but I mean, and I again,
yeah.
not a whole
I mean,
lot of concern with the Illuvium team because they've done such a
yeah,
stellar job taking like the koala bear, the I would guess the drop bear, right?
yeah. The
And
drop
just
bear,
making
like
that the demon bear.
that guy looks sick, man. By far, one of my
I love
favorites. By
him.
far, he reminds me of Koba. I've said it multiple times, but from Planet of the Apes,
Hmm.
the eat like Koba. I think it just looks like dope. But again, it's like it's not hard to come up with these ideas. It's like again, if you're talking about a giraffe and it looks like a giraffe, tell me that the penguin doesn't look like a penguin.
Fair
You know what I
enough.
mean? Like we can do shit like that. It's just about taking a little bit of time, being like a little bit creative. Like, all right, if it's a giraffe with I don't know, man, like I don't know, like fucking spikes or some shit, right? Like so when he swings his neck, like you know what I mean? Like there are things that you
Yeah.
can do. Like obviously that was a very bad idea. I'm not part of that design team, but for a reason. But you get what I'm trying to say. You get what I'm trying to say. There's so many ideas. I honestly don't think. And again, like we forget that we have a ram fire now. We might have a ram frost in one of the next, right? So
Yeah.
something like that. I think that would be cool. And you see it done with superhero shows and things like that all the time. You have the Flash, you have the Reverse Flash, you have Zoom, you have like it's the same thing just repackaged.
How much
Um,
of repackaging though? At what point does that become too much?
I see personally. I think this is just me. I think a couple of repackages every set is fine. I think we have about three to four like repackages, like really really popular ones. I think that's completely fine. Uh, I think if it's more than five, it starts to become like a little bit like, oh man, that was just lazy. But I think less than five, I think that's fine as long as they're done like well. Like
Yeah.
if they're done well or like they make sense to do so. Like again, like a Ramfire with a. I know this is just a direct copy of Pokemon, but if we have like a Ramfire that's like electric, like because we
Hmm.
we have we have shock, right? Like make it
Yeah.
like a Zapdos. Zapdos was fucking loved. Imagine having a Zapdos type character like that. Shit would be mad. Like imagine fucking Ramfire like coming down, but he's like yellow, and instead of the flames, he's coming out fucking thunder jolts or some shit. Like that would just be sick, dude.
I
But yeah,
mean, that right there, you could just take the legendary birds and do your own variation on them.
you could do the legendary dogs. Like you can do the legendary. Like that's the thing. Like it's really not hard to come up with these ideas and do some dope shit.
Now I'm
It's
just
just about
envisioning like a
yeah.
legendary bird that starts as like a chick and it's all cute and it grows up into
Mm.
something like
Yeah. Now it makes like, and the thing is like we see it with, again, like I used to do this shit with music and things. It's like, dude, no one is out here making music being like, I just have, like, it's very rare that it happens. Like, I just have an idea. Most people will have some music in the background. They'll hear like a melody, be like, oh, let me like switch this up and then do this
yeah,
and play around. Like it's inspiration. And it's the same. Like, all we have to do is look at like Harry Potter books, fucking look at Aragon the book, look at this or that, read these books, get these ideas, and then flip them and make them our own. Sample it. Like, go
true.
Kanye. I probably shouldn't say that, but yeah, go Kanye West on that shit. Sample these ideas and flip them, and make some cool shit. That's
So
yeah. I'm not afraid of about the lack of ideas for alluvials anytime soon. Like,
so how often would you like to see new sets personally? Especially knowing that
hard
once
to
a new
say.
set comes out, the old set is forever gone away and will not
Yeah,
be made
hard to
available.
say. I would say a year. I
A
don't know.
year?
Like, ideally, if we had like a crazy team and we could go like mad, just moving quickly. I would say 6 months, ideally. 6 months in an ideal world, 6 months, because that would consistently have people playing and
Yeah.
grinding it out and like needing to come back consistently. And I know I'm pretty sure that's what Team Fat Tactics does. I think it's 6 months. Um,
Sounds
and
about
again,
right.
like, you kind of don't fix what's not broken, right? So I would say 6 months ideally. With the current team that we have and everything, I'd say a year. For the first couple of years, we could do it like a year, and then once, like, I'd say for the first 2 years, for the first two sets, do a year, and then after that, suck on 6 months if we can build it out to handle that. But I think there's a lot more benefits to having 6 months than there are to a year. But I know that the dev team and the art team would be like, man, what the fuck? 6 months? Which makes sense. Which makes sense. So yeah, I would say 6 months ideally, but otherwise a year. Wow, what do you think?
I personally am more in favor of a year, but again, it's coming from the collector side of me where I'm just sitting here like, "Ugh, 6 months might not be enough. And I don't
Yeah.
want to go like, I like the high of having a new set, but I don't want to like, I need a break from the high. Like, I need to
Mm.
complete my set and have a breather. So it'll really depend, I guess, on how long it takes me to collect this first set, and then I'd have a better idea. But I would say for the first set, you need an elongated period, and then if you're only doing like 50 alluvials after, then 6 months like
Yeah,
seems more acceptable.
that makes sense. Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah. 6 months, from a marketing point of view, 6 months makes a lot more sense. But again, ideally, that's like, we can't just say, oh, it makes sense, but we don't have the infrastructure to handle it. That's ridiculous. Yeah, that would be my
Let's
take there.
I mean, this is frankly, I thought 2022 was interesting just in how everything panned out. But with
Mm.
2023 here on the horizon, it's brand new year and seeing everything that's going to come out and everything we get to experience, I'm rearing to go. I'm
Yeah,
gonna show
yeah,
the game.
that's gonna be
I love the
fun.
game.
Yeah,
But
that's gonna be fun. 2023 is gonna be a really good one, man. I know Kieran's kind of said it. Like, what's his name? Kane's kind of said it, that 2023 is gonna melt faces. I 100% agree. Like, we've got, like, if anyone plays chess, it's like we've got all of our pieces set up already. Like,
mm,
we've got like a arena survival kind of set up. We've got overworld setup. We're dropping, what's it called, Illuvium land, Illuvium
mhm.
Zero. Sorry, like right around, like all the pieces are set. Like, they're
Yeah.
all ready to go. We're ready just to take that final shot and call it checkmate. Um, so it's gonna be like, and Kieran's kind of said, read between the lines. Like, read between the lines. What do we actually need for open beta? Like, we need arena, PvP, we need Overworld, and we need Illuvium Zero. Well, technically, we have some form of Overworld. Technically, we're about to have Illuvium Zero.
Mhm.
Arena, the only thing we're missing now is PvP. But think about it, like, the mechanics are done. Like, we've seen it in action. We've seen them battling. We've seen, like, all of that shit is done now. So how much further can we actually be, right? Like, it's one of those things where we're actually right around the corner. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. It's not one of those like, oh, we're almost there with nothing to show for it. It's like, man, we have a fucking slew of products to show for it now, and it is, man, 2023 is going to be a very, very, very fun year for sure. It's going to be a very busy year for team for sure, but it's going to
It's
be a fun one. It's going to
it's
be a fun
funny
one.
because to hear you say that, it's like if I was coming in here and I didn't know anything about Illuvium, I would have taken what you just said and go like, "Oh, cool!" Like the next like maybe 2 or 3 months, and
Okay,
as
yeah,
a
it's not.
creator deep in the community, setting realistic expectations for anyone
Yeah,
popping in for the first time.
yeah,
I personally expect open beta of Overworld probably not before Christmas or Thanksgiving, like
fair, fair.
mostly because with how much testing we did on the arena, and the nice thing
Mm,
was what we did in arena can translate into the overworld. But we need to do an equal amount of testing on the overworld to make sure bugs are fixed. And if we're doing a whole
yeah.
UI, wasn't somebody new hired to redo that UI or work
I'm not
on
too
it?
sure. I'm not too sure. Potentially.
Regardless,
I've been out for like a week and a half. I've been completely like in my
yeah.
bed. So nah, I'm not sure.
But I mean, regardless, there are things to add, there are things to fix. And I personally would rather give
100%.
the team more time than less and be disappointed.
Yeah,
So,
100%. And when I say that, yeah, I do want to clarify. I don't mean like it's going to be out in 2 weeks. It's definitely not what I'm saying. But I just mean like if people thought we were
mhm.
doing well already, it's like, man, we actually have products out. Like we're obviously going in the right direction. It is going to take a bit of time. It's not going to be like around the corner. But like, I mean, it's a pretty stupid statement to say, but like we're closer than we've ever been. Obviously. But yeah, like bear with us, be patient. It takes time, but man, fucking, it doesn't make sense to jump off the boat now. It makes no
True.
sense. If you've waited all this time, it makes no sense to jump off the boat now. Yeah.
And I mean, on that note, I'm just going to thank everyone for joining us today on our discussion about the overworld. If you want to keep updated, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. TSG, thanks again for hopping in and just chatting with me about your experience.
No, I appreciate you, man. I want to publicly apologize for being hella late. I kind of slept through. It's on me. I apologize. But no, this was great. This was fun. It's a nice way to get back into the groove of things. So thank you, Artemis. Love your shit always, always.
All right. And to everyone else, we'll see you on the flip side.